नमस्कार, I'm अशोक व्यास और अपने नाम के साथ साथ बहुत सारी चीजें हम घर में बैठे बैठे या तो याद कर रहे हैं या भूल रहे हैं. And one of the thing that many of us are probably missing a lot is going out on a drive or meeting friends and having a sense of social mingling. A new kind of world has unfolded for us due to uh, global crisis, pandemic. But should we pay attention to the harsh side of it, or should we try to see what is it that is significant in this kind of lull or stillness, which, if you look at it, is hugging all of us in mysterious way? Not getting too much with my monologue, I take this opportunity of welcoming a wonderful and beautiful couple. You see them on the frame now, Aniket Gune ji and Ruchika Gune ji. Namaste, स्वागत है आपका.
Namaste. How
I
are you,
want
Ruchi?
welcome. So I want our viewers to enjoy your smile a little bit more as I let them know that both of you have followed on the path of beauty of silence under the guidance and inspiration by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji. So they are not just active part of the art of life, family, art of living or life.
Yes.
Yes. They also have helped others connect with their inner beauty as senior instructors with art of life. Going in a traditional way, Ruchika ji, we can we can either brood upon what is wrong, or we try to see what is it that is still bright. So, looking at the bright side of this whole situation, what would you say?
I think every situation has a silver lining, and this one definitely has a lot of silver linings. Right? I think the ability to kind of not let the noise and the distraction that we'd gotten ourselves into, we were so busy running, chasing, that we were not really listening to our inner voice at all. We were constantly distracting ourselves. And it's a really good time to connect back with ourselves, to ask the deeper questions in life. Why am I here? What's my purpose? I think mortality has become very obvious. We all know that we're not going to be living on this planet forever, but we were going about as if we were going to live forever. And, the time that we have on the planet, what do we really want to do? I think it's also, while there's physical distancing, people are far more connected. I mean, I know of people who had never been on Zoom or on social media now are connecting with each other and families. So I think people are finding a way to connect, even though there is a physical barrier in the way the connection's happening. But I think emotionally people are connecting. So it's a great time to kind of look inward. And also nature. Like, you're hearing stories about how pollution in so many places has gone down. Animals are rejoicing. Nature's rejoicing. So in some ways, it's a little bit of a reset for everything. And if we can also take this time to go inward and ponder on the deeper questions of life and our purpose, I think we'll come out of it very different.
So go deeper and questions like, what am I doing here on this planet in this form? When we hear these questions from someone like Ruchika, or probably Aniket would also echo similar ideas, some of us resonate with them. And some of us feel, man, it is so boring. So let us talk about the interesting side of these questions, or sort of playing with the question of who am I, and what is it that I can see is beautiful in this stillness of some kind. Aniketji, what would you say? What is it that we would say is beautiful?
Such a beautiful, juicy question.
Loaded.
By my dearest wife. We had the experience of actually doing an online silence retreat from our homes about 2 weekends back. And it was such a beautiful experience because, of course, everything around is silent and quiet. But even when we have a routine of diving into that silence much deeper, what you start getting in touch with is that part of you that has remained untouched through it all. आप अगर साक्षी भाव बोले, or you call it witness consciousness, like all these things around me are happening, but yet I remain witness to all of these. And holding on to that part of you gives you a lot of joy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of optimism that come what may, that we will be able to make it through. And this part of us has actually carried us through when tough things have happened in our life. So, I mean, I firmly believe, to your point, they say, right, silence is the mother of creativity. Silence is so much more. Of course, creativity, innovation, juice, joy, optimism. But just a simple practice of meditation allows you to come in touch with that silent part of you that just remains unaffected through all of this.
So when we hear these words from Aniket ji, some of us start thinking that he's saying it, but I don't experience it. And I think what matters is it is not just the silence alone. So the word silence is not universally the same silence. It is
Yeah.
a silence that you have created with your own unique contribution in developing the bridge with this silence. So let us learn a little bit more from you, Ruchika ji, in how to work on developing that relationship with silence, whereby we get to see those things which Aniket ji just referred about creativity. So if I say that sometimes for some people silence could be frustrating, silent could be boring. So how to have that relationship with silence which makes it interesting and meaningful and fruitful?
It's a great question. Um, I think initially what happens is because we're used to so much noise and so much distraction, and especially right now with our phones and iPads, you're constantly plugged in. Even if you're waiting in line to check out, you're constantly on your phone seeing what's happening on Instagram or Facebook or the news. We are not used to the mind being quiet even for a second. So when we try and kind of still the mind, it feels like, oh my God, I'm being bombarded with even more thoughts. This is so boring. I could be doing things that are far more productive and efficient. And I think a practice helps. For me, the breath has been a great way to kind of find a way to still the mind. And also, if it is feeling boring, it's okay to feel bored, right? I don't know why we've gotten into our an understanding that we need to be entertained all the time, we need to be feeling excited all the time and good all the time. No, I mean, there are all emotions on the planet, and it's okay to feel all of them. And if you can just stay in that emotion, like even boredom, if you stay in boredom for a little bit, as Gurudev said very recently, if you stay in boredom for a little bit, it'll actually transform into something really big. But it can't be boredom of the intellect. You have to have a little bit of emotion with it. And he said this beautifully, that the heart likes repetition, right? If you always, when you're in love, you say, I love you like a million times to somebody, but the intellect does not like boredom. So how do you stay bored with a little bit of emotion, and they'll take you into a completely new dimension of being, where that silence is juicy and that silence is vibrating and it's not frustrating.
So silence is not not frustrating. Is the idea that we're trying to understand with the help of Aniket ji and Ruchika ji. And she mentioned something interesting, which some of us were on the edge of our seat and wanted to object that why we should not always be entertained, why not everything should always be exciting, because that's how it is. You go to any program, they say, "Are you all excited?" And they expect you to shout with that. If you don't shout, then they say there's something wrong with you, and they say that, "Are you happy? Are you enjoying?" etc. So now let us pin on the word enjoying. We probably also, as I said about silence, the same is true for enjoy. What is it that you enjoy? So go separately. As if Aniket is not listening, Ruchika, tell me what what do you enjoy?
I think enjoyment has joy in it, right? And joy can come from anywhere. Like we normally think of joy coming from outside. So yes, the trigger can be outside, but we forget very often who is the person who's experiencing joy? Where is joy coming from? We get lost in the object and pay very little attention to the subject. And if you actually paid attention to the subject who was experiencing joy and where the source of joy was coming from, we'll enjoy everything, right? Even small things. I'll give you an example. Like, so a couple of days back, it had been 3 or 4 weeks of being inside. We've been at home, have not stepped out of our apartment. Everything is being delivered, which we're really lucky about. And I was like, oh my God, it's Groundhog Day. I've been cooking, Aniket's been cooking. After a point in time, we want some change. And I was like, okay, it would be really nice to be able to order in. But I'm like, this is not the time you order in. This is the time you are safe and you cook. And the moment you kind of change that and say, no, I'm going to go cook, right? And you make an intention that I'm going to go cook, even the small act of cutting vegetables and what am I going to make today and what spices am I going to put in becomes joyful. But if you stay with, oh my God, I really want to go out, I can't order in, I'm so bored, and with that mindset you do it, then you're not in the present. And if you're not in the present, you can't feel joy. So I think anything, to your point, can be joyful if you decide you want to be joyful and pay attention to the subject that is actually experiencing joy.
Subject matter is the one who is enjoying. If he's absent to the moment that is unfolding, whatever kind of experience or surrounding or stimulants around him or her, then the question of enjoying it is actually, it is non-existent, because the subject himself or herself is also not actually existing.
Yeah.
So I think we notice others more than what we notice what is happening within us.
Yes.
It's like I noticed that Aniket ji was sipping some tea or coffee. So probably he's enjoying that. But now talk to me a little bit, Aniket ji, about awareness. How to be more aware of our feelings and emotions in a dynamic fashion.
I mean, awareness is a question you should ask Ruchika, but I will give my Padawan apprentice answer on awareness. I think you linked awareness with emotion, so we'll go in that direction. I think with emotion, what happens is we are resistant to certain emotions and we only are craving for certain emotions in our life. So let's say if we feel discomfort or if we feel frustration, anger, we want to step away from it. And then because we are unable to do so, we are further angry. So we get into this cycle where those emotions get stuck on even harder, right? But at that time, even if you have like a gentle awareness, oh, this is the dynamic that is happening, that awareness itself will separate you from that emotion and will change automatically. Because there's a rule in life, right? If there's a rule in the mind, what you resist, it persists, right? So the more you resist certain emotion, the more it's going to stick on with friends and family and cousins, right? But the moment you're able to embrace it, accept it, and recognize it, it passes like clouds floating and it leaves you. So the role of awareness is very, very high actually in terms of helping us move through these events that happen in our life with equanimity.
So, see, I practice restraint, and as someone who is asking questions, when you hear something and you want to jump to a word, but I have retained that. I like rhyming. So what is resisted is, or what you resist, it persists. Now there could be some negative emotions that you resist. For example, you feel a lot of anger towards somebody. someone. So you resist it. Will that persist, or will it go away, Ruchika ji? I mean, is that not something that is suggested, that you do not entertain these kind of emotions more and sort of resist them?
I think so. Resistance has force in it, right? So for you to resist something, there is an opposite force to it. So the more you're resisting it, the more it's pulling in the opposite direction. If you can just accept it, it dissipates. Right? The point is what you said, is acceptance. The moment you accept anything, it moves to the background. The moment you cannot accept something and you resist it, it takes center stage. Right? Even this thing of, I don't want to be angry with so and so person. I don't want to be angry. I don't want to. We're putting so much energy in that I don't want to be angry, that we're actually putting more energy behind the anger. Right? And if you just say, okay, I am angry right now, it's okay. This too shall pass. Then you have a little bit of distance from it. And awareness is nothing but a little bit of distance from the event. It's what you said earlier, Shokji, it's easier to see it in other people. Why is it easier to see it in other people? Because we have distance from their lives, right? We don't have as much distance in our own life. We become the story. We can't step back and see the bigger context. So if you can do that, there's far more awareness if you can kind of see your own story from a third person's perspective.
Beautiful. So in addition to social distancing, what I think we are learning is self-distancing. Self-distancing, now getting into the terminology which is prevalent in the spiritual orbit, it is Sakshi Bhav, or being a witness. Now, being a witness is good as long as other things are all right, in terms of you don't have any imminent threat or danger, or you're not fighting for survival on financial situation, etc. So we sometimes think that the ideas that we are exchanging, like you're talking about awareness, etc., these are good if everything is going good. Otherwise, these are platonic ideas and they don't make a pragmatic or practical sense. So how would you respond to this? Call it a theory. I'm not saying that this is the way it is, but that's the way a common mind thinks.
Yes. The job of the world is to pull the senses away and keep you stuck into the world like a iron filing on a magnet, right? So anything that is happening around us actually is making us kind of go out and kind of get divided in terms of like our equanimity, right? But the trick over here is, in some ways, the more that happens, the more that mirrors in our life. And the more you're able to actually take the reins of those senses and go back inward, the more the outward starts mirroring what your insides are reflecting. I mean, Gurudev talks about this, right? He says, dhara is something that flows outward. Our senses flow outward. But the reverse of that is radha, which is longing for what's inside.
Wow, beautiful.
So when you take those senses inward, suddenly it finds refuge, it finds rest. And what happens, I wouldn't say automagically, but what follows is your environment starts behaving in that way. So a lot of times these things are considered esoteric, right? It's a theory, it's not practical. But I can tell you, sitting in New York City, being somebody who has a compromised immune system, who is in a very high pressure job, being in the hub of the epicenter, having friends actually who have this knowledge, who are learning again techniques taught by Gurudev. They're going to the front lines. This knowledge is the saving grace for them. In spite of what's happening around, this knowledge is keeping them solidified. And because of that, they're actually able to influence their environment. And that to me is the practicality of what we're talking right now.
I think sometimes we need to go beyond our repetitive thoughts, and that is what we say is a sense of stillness, and the strength comes from stillness.
Yes.
A tree is in a position to offer shade and whatnot because it is grounded, and there is a sense of stillness in its roots. That's why the tree is a tree. And talking about practicing stillness, Ruchika ji, one is mental stillness, and another, of course, is physical stillness. Uh, Talk to me the importance and significance of practicing stillness.
I think I think for me, stillness has been much more about the mind, right? Because the mind and the body are interlinked. So sometimes you can use the body as a way to bring the mind back, but the body is always in the present. It's the mind that is not still. Of course, there can be restlessness in the body too, but it's normally the mind that is kind of taking us all over the place, right? There is no lockdown for the mind, even at this time. In fact, if anything, it's going even crazier. So how do you bring your mind back to the present? And when you are in the present, then there is stillness. There is a pause. There is the bedrock of infinite possibilities. All of that is right now. So again, how do you bring your mind, which hates or finds it really tough to be in the present, come back to the present? And for me, again, some of the techniques have been breath-based techniques, because the breath is always in the present. So if you bring the mind back to the breath or the body, which is always in the present, it will come back to the present. But again, you can't fight with the mind. The more you fight with the mind, it goes back to what Aniket says, whatever you resist persists. The more you tell it, be here right now, it's like a little bit of a rebellious child. It will not do it. So you just have to let it be sometimes.
So work with your mind, look at it as a child, or whichever technique works for you. But I love this phrase which Ruchika ji just shared, that is, breath is always in the present.
Yes.
If you're breathing, you cannot be saying that I was breathing or I will breathe. This is the moment you are breathing. And this is the moment when I would like to say thanks to this beautiful and energetic and lively couple who has managed to be not just present in the present, but also be a present for the society through what they are doing, spreading joy through inner beauty. As we conclude this conversation, brief words from both of you about significance of stillness and bringing it in our lives.
Absolutely, Ashokji. And I think now more than ever, there's a need. And we are also teaching these online happiness programs that teach techniques where sitting in your couch in your living room, you can actually experience stillness and you can get a practice. So I would love to invite and welcome your viewers to experience some of the programs.
Yeah.
So you want to give Ruchika ji some details where they can have access to these programs?
Yes, you can find them on the Art of Living website. And, if you kind of search for New York or the Eastern Coast Times, you will find them online. The other thing that I would also say, Ashokji, to stillness is you can only give what you have in life, right? So unless you have peace and you have calm and you have joy, you cannot give it. If you are frustrated and if you are angry, that is all you spread. And in today's day and age, what we need is, light and joy and hope, because that's not what the world is feeling. So I think that can be one of the biggest service that all of us do in terms of uplifting other people's minds and giving hope and courage where it might be a little bit of a dark day sometimes. And that can only come when you are rooted in it. So I think it's very imperative that all of us find our own inner strength and joy so that we can give it to other people.
I also have to say you're like a shining example, Ashokji, because in spite of this, we've come to your studio. It feels we are talking in a studio, and all you're interested is in having, again, your viewers experience different point of views so that they can elevate and potentially see different perspectives in their lives. So thank you for being like a shining light for us.
So I take this compliment and offer it to all our viewers, because they just said that what you have, that only you can offer. So they gave me light. So I share that light with you. And just as a bonus for our viewers, Ruchika ji and Aniket ji, if you sing for a minute or something, any dhun that helps you get to that meditative mood.
Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya.
Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And when with Shraddha and Bhav, this chanting takes us to that one pointedness, which is the epitome of beauty, of silence, and that sense of stillness, which is otherwise running away from us, becomes available for us through chanting. That's a great gift you have given us, Aniket and Ruchika. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for joining this session, with lots and lots of good wishes for you to have more beautiful experiences and share them with generosity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashok ji.
And
Thank
wish
you, Aniket.
everybody stays safe and stays strong and happy.
So strength is definitely needed to stay happy, and we get that from each other. And we got a lot from Aniket and Ruchika. Thanking both of them and thanking all of you with lots and lots of good wishes. This is Ashok Vyas.